Welcome to the newest episode of Go and Make, a podcast by Jesus Film Project that's dedicated to celebrating innovations in the Great Commission. I'm Ryan Wagner, one of your hosts and Director of Marketing and Communications here.
Yeah, and I'm Andrew Crabtree, other host and an advocate for the ministry here. Today we had a really cool guest on.
Yeah.
Aaron Thomson was here sharing kind of innovations that him and his team are doing with youth and Gen Z through an app called Vogue.
Yeah, it's a really great team here with Jesus Film Project that's really focused on that generation. And they're just learning tons of things, trying new things. So anyways, you'll hear more about it in the conversation. Think you'll love it, so check it out.
Live it up, live it up, live it up.
Well, this week on Go and Make, we have our guest here, Aaron Thomson. Aaron, thanks for jumping in and getting in the seat here.
No problem. It's a pleasure to be here, Ryan.
So, Aaron, you've been on staff with Crew for how many years now? It's been
20, just coming up on 21.
21 years.
Wow.
Were you and your wife together those whole 21 years?
Yeah, we got married, and I think we actually joined staff just before we got married, technically.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm at about 20 and 3/4 years. So I put 3/4 because the U.S. loves fractions. So.
We do love fractions. I didn't know it until you said that, but apparently we love fractions. Because even when you said fractions, I was like,
Yeah, it makes sense. I like
fractions.
it. Yeah.
I try to connect with my audience. Yeah.
So, of those almost 21 years, how long have you been in your current role, and maybe speak to what that is?
Yeah, it's a great question. Kind of both in just serving in New Zealand for 15 years, and so really the last 6 or 5 and 3/4 we've been here in the US, and so been doing some stuff with global digital strategy and just the bigger picture of how do we take our product to global locations and digitally. So that's been probably the prior 4 years, and really the last 2 years I've been with Jesus Film and with a product that I give some leadership to called Vogue, and it's very film driven, so it's a great fit with Jesus Film, and what Jesus Film's got a long history of visual media, so really enjoying being part of what the Jesus Film family.
Yeah, so you've been working with Vogue for quite a while now, and on this podcast, Go and Make, we use that as a way to communicate, like go and make disciples, and also there's a lot of like just energy in that kind of go and make. We want people to go and engage with people around them, and Vogue is a platform that is kind of designed around that concept. So as we bring in innovative ideas and innovative conversations that people are using as culture changes to help engage with people, how does this fit in that category? We know it does, but we'd love for you to be able to explain like what these are things we're trying that we feel like no one else is really doing.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I find myself in the software industry in the sense of I'm building software with Vogue, and to a lot of people it's like, well, we've got Gmail. Do you really think you can make a better client than Gmail for email? I'm like, well, probably not. I mean, there are a lot of off-the-shelf kinds of solutions that we can license, and so why go build your own platform for ministry per se? And I think the answer there is it just comes down to the nuance of how we want to interact with our audience. And so how do you create an opportunity for two people to really discuss what is the gospel? What does that have to do with me personally? And in that space, it's young people. I work mostly with 14 to 24-year-olds, and so that's the audience that we're building for. And they have things like Instagram's probably the most popular platform, at least here in North America. But at the end of the day, that's not a place where the average 14 to 24-year-old feels comfortable about engaging with what they believe. They'll tell you what they believe about cookies and mocha coffee and where you can get the best tires for your bicycle. Not probably going to say too much about what it is that they believe personally, and so we have to create a space for them to be able to have those conversations, because those conversations are really, really important. And so I think we all agree that those conversations are important, but really the stumbling block for the vast majority of us is like, well, how do I get that conversation started? And once I get started, then what? Then what do I do? And so, giving people a leg up in that space is really important. And, you know, so back to sort of being creative and building things. I mean, I think we've got to take what we can off the shelf, and where we can't find it on the shelf, we just got to fashion it and build it ourselves, and within a certain amount of time, within a certain amount of budget, you know.
So what do you mean by that? Take things, if it's on the shelf, what do you mean?
So, you know, in terms of building software, there's a lot of libraries that we can get our hands on. There's a lot of things that others have thought a lot about. And so, you know, for example, chat. If we can integrate a chat module, will probably makes more sense
Inside
to
the
integrate
app.
To build
that.
something custom.
Right. So let's spend our time building what others aren't building, not just to be unique, but to solve problems that we uniquely want to solve. And to be quite honest with you, you know, massive platforms like YouTube don't really care what kids discuss. They just want people to watch.
Want the
They want them on
eyeballs,
it,
right?
yeah.
So if that's, you know, cats flying through the air, you know, then they don't mind. For us, I think we just want to go to a deeper place than that. And we want to provide ministry opportunity for people. We want to bring two people closer together. And, you know, it's not necessarily going to happen around a cat video per se. But content is important. I think in Jesus Film, we realize that we've got some really good quality content. In our film production, we're building more, you know, quality content. But it's about relationship. And so it's one thing to think about the individual, and this is a space where, you know, inside of YouTube, people just watch this, they watch this, they watch the next thing. You know, we all know about how the algorithm delivers the next thing that you would like to watch, but there's no relationship there per se. I mean, there's a relationship between you and the platform, which is called a play icon that you push, and you like that, but that's very inanimate. You know, I'm talking about relationship with the person on the other end. So how do we take that content and innovate around that to introduce a friend and a discussion? And that increases relational, you know, depth. And so, you know, what kinds of questions would I need? And, you know, some people often say to me, Aaron, I don't know how you come up with these questions. You know, this are great questions. Like, I love the question, I'd love to ask it, but I don't know if I could come up with that question myself. So building a platform that provides those pieces.
There's a lot of thought behind that.
Right. And then it's just back to what problems are we solving for people?
So the product hasn't been live for very long, right? So I don't know how much data you have here, but what results are you seeing, and in what ways are you kind of seeing God move through the platform and it shaping young people's lives?
Right. I think we've been live for probably about coming up on 3 years.
Is it that long?
And we've gone through some different iterations in the product. I think when we started out, it was more about like, hey, how do I help you share your faith? And what we found is it's not a lot of young people really thinking about that. So we've had to kind of go broader to, you know, how do we help people go deeper with God and others? And that's something that gets a lot more traction. And so in the midst of that content, how do we help people traverse through a series of content that's staircased in a way that leads to a point, and where they get more clarity, develop some conviction in what they believe, and confidence. And those are kind of the 3 C's of what we're delivering in Vogue. And then that comes to a point where now they can engage their friend. They can reach out to somebody. And so we've built that all into an adventure. And so that piece is really going to be gone for about 3 months.
Okay.
And so what are we seeing? We're seeing about 40% of people who come into our app who start an adventure, and 1/3 of those people are doing that with a friend, which is pretty mind-blowing, really. When you think about the inertia that it takes to step out to a
really
friend.
do that. Yeah.
It's a lot harder it's easy to open an app by yourself, but to actually share it and do it together, that takes, exponentially more effort.
Yeah, what kind of stories are coming out? I mean, there's been people earlier this summer that were kind of on the road, so to speak, for Vogue, engaging with different youth groups, churches, other organizations, ministries all over the country. What kind of stuff were you discovering out of that time?
Yeah, so what Ryan's pointing to is a Go Vogue tour that we ran.